Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. So my name's Stephen Dickens. I work for IBM. I'm the global offering manager for what we colloquially call Z Cloud. So this is my presentation today. I'm going to be the warm-up man for my good friend here in the front row who's going to be joining us a little later to talk about some of the client experiences. But I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about Z Cloud. Going to cover where we're seeing the market going, where we're seeing clients engage with us around a cloud-first strategy, some of the challenges that we're hearing from clients around traditional on-premise mainframe deployments. I'm going to talk to you about IBM's offering and some of the benefits, tell you a little bit why IBM in this space versus alternatives. Then we're going to have Rich join us, talk to you a little bit around what we're seeing specifically with CA as we look to move this market, and then some of the next steps where you guys can find some more information. So really just trying to ground here and get a perspective of what we're hearing from clients, this view into the market. So what we're hearing is that mainframes in an on-premise environment are struggling to deliver the agility that clients need. They're turning to the cloud with distributed and x86 type of workloads as the model. And what we're seeing is we're trying to enable that from our position as obviously the people who invent a lot of the technology and deliver that as a service to clients. So not a surprise to any of you, but cloud's now becoming that default model. As guys like Rich in our sales teams engage with clients, and I get called on to calls with our senior leaders in our clients, cloud is just that default model. When you talk to the senior leaders and maybe they've not got a mainframe background, what's in their minds, what's in their DNA and where they're thinking is move to the cloud first. So I think if we look forward into this market, what we're going to see is that it's going to become just the de facto standard of how you deploy compute, storage, and deploy infrastructure as a service. So why are people taking that transition? Why are people moving to the cloud? It's around some of the basics that you would expect. If you've sat through any cloud presentation from IBM, from AWS, from Google, maybe 2 or 3, 4 years ago, you would have seen these points on the chart. The ability to drive to a consumption-based model. Pay as you go. Rich is going to talk about that a little bit later in the alliance that we've got with CA and how we're bringing that to market together. But it's really to drive that agility, drive some of the commercials, drive a reduction in TCO, but also change the posture of the infrastructure. You've got an on-premise team, building a 24/7 support organization around that is an investment. We can provide that capability with a follow-the-sun support organization, and so you can increase actually the levels of support, the backup, the failover, some of the way you can architect this offering in the cloud. You could do on-premise, but it would lead to significant cost. So what this does is it enables your IT department to really get back to areas where they can add value. I wouldn't argue that a systems programmer is adding value to the corporation. They're not innovating, they're not driving forward the DevOps agenda, they're running and managing infrastructure. So moving that to the cloud enables you to free up resources to do things that add value. So a lot of people are saying, where does this fit within IBM's overall portfolio? IBM will at a corporate level be talking about the cloud, we'll be talking about Bluemix, what maybe you would have heard of SoftLayer. You know, where does the Z Cloud fit within that overall construct? So what we're seeing is clients increasingly wanting a multi-chip architecture cloud story from IBM. So if you approach in AWS, Google, or Azure, they're able to obviously provide cloud platforms, but it's on single chip architecture. If you've got an x86-based workload running, say, on VMware on-premise, they can host it in the cloud for you. But if you've got a Series I workload or you've got a mainframe workload, the area I look after, how do you move that to the cloud? So we've just launched, for instance, a I-series based cloud in North America and a couple of other countries across Europe, and are going to be looking to roll that out globally. Obviously, we've got the Z Cloud proposition now running in 18 countries. So it's the ability to build a multi-chip architecture cloud and take that to our clients. So the ability for you to run your web front end, that application tier, and that system of record all on the IBM Cloud. So what are we seeing as some of the challenges that are driving this? What are some of the things that are driving our clients to engage with us? So keeping current, keeping up to date, I call it this hamster wheel of keeping current, keeping technology, doing updates, rolling in new storage every 2 or 3 years, rolling in a new mainframe every 2 or 3 years. It's just this hamster wheel of activity that a team has to go on that doesn't add value. It's not driving new applications, it's not driving line of business, it's just keeping infrastructure current. We can take that away from clients and take away that burden. Well, the other major thing we're hearing, and you'll have heard CA talk about it, I was talking to some of the CA execs last night over dinner about this topic, is the people who have got the skills, these experienced subject matter experts in the mainframe, they're reaching retirement age. Apologies if anybody falls into this group. I hope you've got some good plans for your retirement in the next few years, but it's a true fact that this is an aging workforce that have got these deep skills. Now, IBM's investing heavily in things like the academic initiative, Master the Mainframe, hackathons, various things to bring new millennials in, but we hear from our clients that it's a 5-year gestation period to get these guys ready so that you can get them onto production environments. If you've not made those investments in skills and bringing people on over the last 5 years, you may be having challenges. So that's one of the other drivers we're hearing. One of the big things, and Rich is going to talk about it a little later, is this ability to scale and move to where your business is taking you. Business is more dynamic. I'm not going to give you the charts that you often see from the analysts and the press about how disruptions happening, how new markets, new supply chains, but business is more fluid than it was maybe 5-10 years ago. That means your mainframe needs to adapt. You maybe need to connect to a retail application for Black Friday and handle a peak, but then for February and March, when times are slow for a retailer, you need to scale back. Having a high watermark model for your mainframe, where you've committed to a size of a box and a size of a ISV software license, doesn't match the current business model. So seeing those challenges for clients is what's driving a lot for us as we bring in this consumption-based model. So I'll skip ahead a little. So what are clients asking for? Obviously, when people look to get all this flexibility and we engage, you know, that's interesting, it drives the discussion forward, but obviously there's also a TCO discussion. Clients are looking to drive operational savings. You know, I speak to our sales guys a lot, and it's, yes, they see the functionality, yes, they see the rich feature set, yes, they see that we're running this on new technology, yes, there's a new DR posture and SLAs are there and can be contracted against, but how do I drive for TCO? So it's this ability to move from a CapEx heavy model to an OpEx model. So mainframes like the one we've got on our booth are not a cheap infrastructure investment. The storage that typically sits around these, they're not cheap, and they hit the bottom line for these organizations on a 3, 4, 5 year cycle, and they're big capital investments. If we can take that same mainframe workload and move it to an OpEx model, we can take away some of the barriers that CIOs and CTOs have with this platform. I don't think there's any question that the technology itself is very secure, highly available, and the right thing to run your system of record on. But what we hear from clients is a lot of the challenge is, help me justify the CapEx. With a Z Cloud model, we're moving away from that. So how do we do it? How does the technology work? What are we doing? So the mainframe as a technology platform has been built for multi-tenancy, built for multiple lines of business to run on the same infrastructure since the get-go. if you wind back, what is it now, 50, 60 years ago, this technology was designed as the first multi-use compute technology. So if you go all the way back and you look at where technology like hypervisors came from, ZVM over 40 years ago was brought out to be able to run multiple lines of business all on one box. So from a Z-Cloud perspective, what we've been doing is taking that same approach and rolling it onto how we deliver this infrastructure. So we're talking about a multi-tenant cloud infrastructure running in 18 countries, supporting multiple clients now in each country with tens of clients on each box, leveraging that technology heritage that I talked about. So the ability to run workloads in segregated LPARs gives us the same level of security separation as if you were running on individual infrastructure. And then what we're able to do is leverage our global support organization to manage that multi-tenant infrastructure. So because we've got capability now in 18 countries, we've got support centers in Prague, South Africa, India, Brazil, and obviously on-premise resources that we can call in particular countries, we can provide that support around this infrastructure. So what we're doing is providing for our clients a service catalog, if you will. If you go onto our booth, you'll see us showcasing how that we can dynamically now provision against this service catalog. So you're able to look at the key components of your mainframe infrastructure, your KICS, your DB2, your IMS, your WebSphere. And what we've done is we've not only taken that software, we've taken the infrastructure and the managed service involved to run that infrastructure and be able to provide you back KICS as a service, DB2 as a service onto your infrastructure. So you're able to choose from a service catalog here at the software layer and then make choices around various availability and storage to drive what you need. So everything from here sort of running a single data center, running right up to GDPS if you wanted to go there. We've got 2 or 3 clients now around the world running full active GDPS infrastructures in the cloud as a service. So I'm not saying everybody needs to get there. There's a significant cost involved in running a GDPS infrastructure, but if you need to get there, we can do that in the cloud for you. Obviously, a lot of focus on Linux. I'm going to be talking tomorrow, on, a bit later on actually, about some of the work I do with the Linux Foundation. Linux is exploding on the mainframe. Since the launch of Linux 1 back in 2015, lots of clients are starting to realize that Linux on the mainframe is a solid proposition and something they should be getting into more and more. So from a Z-Cloud perspective, we're able to offer Linux, everything that you would be able to run and talk about from a Linux 1 perspective. So Docker, Kubernetes, MongoDB, Postgres, Node.js, you know, all of these open source packages that you're able to run on the platform that have come on board over the last 2 or 3 years, we can run for you in the cloud and provide you back the compute infrastructure as a service. So how are clients making this transition? What does a standard Z-Cloud interaction look like for our clients? So there's typically 2 phases. So because we're running modern infrastructure in our cloud environment, it's not the your mess for less where we would have been maybe 10 years ago with a traditional outsource model. What we're doing is running N or N-1 infrastructure. So we're Z13, we'll be deploying Z14 early next year. First place we'll probably get there is in the UK. We'd then be rolling out across the US, probably in Q2, Q3. Because we're running that new infrastructure in our environment, and the same goes for the KICS, DB2, IMS, ZOS subsystems, what we need to do is, for a lot of clients, get them current, get them to the point where they can be onboarded onto our cloud. What we're doing is taking a very different model to that traditional outsource, where we'll walk in and take over the mess that a client's got and maybe drive a 5, at most maybe 10% reduction in their operational model. By moving you to current software, moving you onto this Z-Cloud infrastructure, we're able to drive as much as 20 to 30% reductions for clients. And we do that by standardization, automation, and by building a global support model around this. So there's a key phase here, which is getting you to the cloud. And typically that could be anywhere from a 6, 9, 12-month process, depending on how back level clients are. But given we've done this now 70 plus times for clients, we're very slick at doing that upgrade process, getting people moved forward as quickly as possible, and then onboarding their storage. So I had the pleasure of working with one of the big software companies that we partner with for data migration. We've got strategic approaches now of how we move clients from one place to another. So a real sort of focus on operationalizing this, what we call transition and transformation phase. And then what we're doing, the second phase of this, is moving people to the steady state where we run and operate their environment. So we'll typically sign a 5-year plus 6-month contract with a client. 6 months for that transition and transformation, and then a 5-year steady state. Now there's actually no barrier to you signing a 12-month contract, a 6-month contract. You could come onto this cloud for as long as you want. But the challenge is more a pragmatic challenge of, if you're going to do a 6-month transition to get to the cloud, you're probably going to want to stay there for a period of time. So we don't have any contractual barriers that mean you have to stay for 3 or 5 years. It's just more a pragmatic barrier of, why would you do the transition to only be there for 12 months, say? So what are we doing from a reliability and availability point of view? Because obviously we can bring to bear this global delivery organization and standardize. If you'll have been to any of the security presentations for any of the technology platforms, what we hear is one of the biggest drivers for hacks and people getting into systems is exploiting weaknesses in back-level software. So it's fantastic that our colleagues in the systems team have got a team focused on RACF development and a team focused on Z-Secure development and bringing in new features and functions into KICS, IMS and DB2 and ZOS. But if you're 5 levels back on your software, you're not taking advantage of all of those security vulnerabilities having been removed. So our posture is that by bringing you forward and you're running on new technology, we're making your infrastructure more secure. So, and then by focusing on how we deliver some of the compliance posture. So we've just launched HIPAA compliance for our cloud in North America, working with a team to bring full PCI compliance globally. Now we can solution for these things today and have got customers running with PCI DSS, HIPAA, some of the other regulations. But we're programmatically now focusing in 2018 to get slicker, faster, quicker, and improve the compliance for our posture for our clients. And what that means is you can focus on the other things that you want to focus on in your business, as opposed to having to worry, how do I get HIPAA compliance or PCI compliance for my mainframe? We'll be looking and focusing on I think it's 59 different criteria for HIPAA, and driving a standard repeatable model into how we deliver for those healthcare providers and insurance companies. Also leveraging some of the key technology components of the infrastructure, as I say, EAL, common criteria certification, picking up on the core technology from things like LPARS. So the ability for us to drive this means you don't need to worry about it, means you can sleep at night knowing that your infrastructure is well managed. So what is this leading to for benefits for clients? This opting for this mainframe as a service model not only reduces cost, drives standardization, improves the security posture, improves DR, gives you that cloud dynamic capability, and Rich is going to spend more time. I've tried to give you a clear run at that, Rich, by not talking too much about consumption, but that's obviously key for a lot of clients. So a lot of people are saying to us, yes, but my data's really secure. I'm in the financial services space. You know, I wouldn't move my mission critical data to the cloud. Maybe those other guys, but maybe not me. One of our best references is AFS. They're a financial service provider, regulated industry. Their clients are the big banks. and financial institutions. They're one of our best clients. I was on the phone with these guys a couple of weeks ago. They are using the Z-Cloud infrastructure to drive their business as they look to drive clients and are wanting a strategic relationship. They've just re-signed their contract with us and a strong advocate for the platform. So I'd question anybody who's thinking, maybe this isn't for me, I'm in the financial services space, I've got some reservations. Happy to take some details from you, broker a call with the guys at AFS, they'd be a strong reference for us, and talk about how they're operating in a very regulatory compliant environment with a multi-tenant mainframe infrastructure. So, final slide from me, hopefully my warm-up act for the real talent, Rich Arita's kind of gone so well so far, but seriously, few takeaways. IBM's obviously heavily invested in the mainframe space. You know, I sit in Poughkeepsie where the R&D teams and the production teams, it's a huge facility. Mainframe's baked into the DNA of IBM. Certainly with our services organization, more than 6,500 mainframe professionals. So that ability to handle that skills gap that I talked about. We've got a track record of doing this for clients. We're the largest provider of mainframe managed services out there in the marketplace, always have been. Probably, from what I can tell, 2x larger than our next largest competitor in this space. Tough to get the metrics on a mainframe managed service provider space. There's not a Gartner Magic Quadrant for my stuff, unfortunately. Maybe that's a double-edged sword. Maybe it's a good job there's not. But when you look at some of the operational data center Gartner Magic Quadrants, we certainly come out as a leader there. So a leader in the Magic Quadrant for public cloud IaaS, a leader for hybrid integration, and a leader for cloud professional services. So the size of our infrastructure, the amount of people we've got that can support it, and our track record. So that's the end from me. I'm going to hand over to my good friend and colleague, Rich Arita, who's going to tell you a little bit more about what we're doing with CA particularly.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you. It's always tough, you know, a guy from New York City who grew up following Stephen with his elegant accent. You know, I come on board and I sound like that kid from the Bronx. Anyway, a couple things I'd like to talk about. And you know, Stephen mentioned about the consumption pricing or the consumption-based model. You know, you basically pay for what you use on the mainframe. So in other words, if you have a baseline of about 1,000 MIPS, but that month, you know, from the SCRT, you only use 900, that's what we end up charging you. So it's very flexible and it allows for less capacity in regards to what you're using. You know, I'd like to say our partnership today with CA and between IBM has gotten stronger every year. I think it's now we're providing some integrated value, you know, based on some of the things that I'll talk about on the next couple slides. But I think that we are now giving that integrated value to you, the clients, which I think is fantastic, you know, with this partnership. So I got to give a shout out, and if there's anybody here from the CA team, we're now providing consumption-based pricing for the CA software on our Z Cloud. And by the way, I call it Z Cloud. I'm not sure what a Z is, but I like to say Z. But anyway, that consumption-based pricing, that is big, and it's exclusive to us, IBM. So if you come onto this model, you know, you get that subcapacity or that consumption-based pricing for it. We also can help you rationalize your portfolio of ISV products, non-CA that is. You know, we'll take a look at what you have installed. We'll do an analysis that says we can provide like or better function from a CA perspective. And then we'll even give you our pricing of the license as well as the migration services to move from that ISV product. So, you know, that's a great tool. We've used it to a lot of different clients, especially those who weren't happy with the current ISV providers, and the ones that are not really getting into this whole cloud kind of model and based on, you know, consumption, and it really is challenging for some of our clients. I'll just take you through a couple of some of the integrated value I mentioned earlier. From a security standpoint, there's Privileged Access Manager. it actually goes out and it'll monitor your systems, look for some abnormal activity going on. So in other words, Joe's system programmer who has a privileged ID, he's on vacation in Hawaii, but we see him logged on, right? So there's something that's not potentially correct. It'll either, you can do automated type of controls or reacting to those kind of abnormalities, or it'll monitor to say a security person that will actually go out and see exactly what's going on. Data content discovery. I think this is probably the best kept secret. And we use it today in Z Cloud where a client can go out and it'll scan all of their data. There's already pre-configured kind of criteria, but you can actually add your own. So in other words, it'll go out and look for social security numbers, credit cards. It'll actually identify to you where it has found that type of exposure and allow you to go and either protect it, move it to a encrypted database or whatever. But it's a tool that we actually have on Z Cloud now that, again, I think it's been fantastic and a well-kept secret, but a lot of our clients now on Z Cloud are actually taking advantage of this. And then finally on here is this mainframe test data. It's really a virtual on-demand of creating test data for your DevOps folks. It becomes very productive for them. You don't have to get an administrator involved, as well as it actually reduces the amount of volume of test data that's out there today. So that's another key product that I think is worthwhile in that integrated value between IBM and CA. Let me talk a little bit about a client. Well, we have actually a couple clients that are state governments. And I think this Z Cloud, regardless of what industry, you saw the financial services company at AFS. It applies, we have a pharmaceutical that's on Z Cloud today. We have industrial clients. It goes across all the industries, but from a state and local standpoint, we actually moved a large state to Z Cloud. They were on older technology, so they were on a Z114. And if anybody, probably a lot of you probably know, they were on Shark DASD still. So they were looking to refresh their mainframe environment, so it was going to be very costly. They were also back-leveled on a lot of the software, so they needed to do that, but they came onto Z Cloud. We had at the time, it was a EC12. Put them on that, put them on new DS, DASD, as well as upgraded their software. And what they experienced was a 60% increase or improvement in their batch production performance, as well as their online transactions. So we had another client, another state came on board. Again, they were in the process of doing a refresh, or were going to plan on doing a refresh. They wanted to get out of that CapEx game, as Stephen mentioned, so they came on to Z Cloud, and their total cost of ownership went down about 18 to 20%. So that's all I have. What I'd like to do is just a call to action. If you come visit us over at the IBM booth, that would be great. I would suggest right behind this theater here is the data discovery pedestal. Go take a look at that as well, and you'll see some of the benefits of having that particular software as well. And that's not just in Z Cloud. That's a product, obviously, you can buy as well. Take a look at some of the websites where we've integrated with, again, CA's offerings, and you'll see Z Cloud out there as well. And I'd open it up if there's any questions.